Members, we now move to part 4, and this is debate on clauses 221 to 267, and the question is that part 4 stand part. The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Straight to the Minister's Amendment SOP 129, which pertains to GST and body corporates with reference to clauses 248, 249 and beyond 250, 251. Sir, it's worth just recalling the context for this. I think it was the 19th of October when we first debated this, and I raised with the Minister of IRD a major problem that he and his ministry had overlooked in respect to issues concerning GST on those small businesses who own premises in a building by way of a unit title interest in a body corporate. Now, in essence, without rehearsing those arguments again, sir, what was amazing about that, and this was, and I know the Minister's put in an SOP after I referred him to and wrote to him on the 20th and provided him with my SOP, and they are very similar, sir. But I've got to raise 2 points. One is that I think the department, or certainly the Minister, knew about this problem for a very, very long time. That's the advice I have. This had the potential to inflict a high degree of cost in terms of retrospectivity on small businesses throughout the country, sir. The Minister, after I wrote to him on the 20th, providing him with an SOP, has submitted one of his own. And as I say, I put on record in large part, sir, it does meet the mark in terms of remedying this. What it appears to provide is a look-through rule, which is what was committed to by the government and the Minister and essentially the department as this bill was introduced, but then, or prior to its introduction, but then they changed their minds. But what it appears to do is provide the look-through rule, but only for supplies made on or before the 26th of February 2015, the date the bill was introduced. Whereas my SOP applies to supplies before 1 April 2016, by which time the bill will have been enacted and people, that is the businesses concerned, sir, those individuals, could make decisions as to whether they register or not based on the new clearer law. Now, because the Minister's SOP provides the date of 26 February 2015, it means that for those small businesses that have incurred costs through an unregistered body corporate from 27 February on are still denied refunds and will still be double taxed under GST. Now, the question is, why would you want to do that? The Minister, and I've got the dates and I can rehearse them again, of course, in May, on the June 2014, the Minister of Revenue, Honourable Todd McClay, announced the government's intention to change the law, right? They gave a series of commitments. The bill was introduced in February 2015. Instead of disallowing body corporates from registering for GST, the bill then proposed the registration be generally elective. No look-through rule, sir, was provided, even though that commitment was made in June, as far back as June 2014. Now, the question is, why would the Minister change the dates? Presumably the view is that when the bill was introduced on the 26th of February, people had notice that there would be no look-through rule as promised by the Minister in June 2014. They could then immediately have the body corporate registered for GST so that they can get refunds to GST. That all, sir, presupposes that small businesses are extremely conversant with the detail and the technical aspects of GST law. It presupposes that those small businesses understand intricately the process of parliamentary legislative making. It presupposes that those small businesses will sort of be hanging on every word of the Parliament as this bill was introduced right through, and analysing every subtle nuance and every clause within the proposed legislation. Now, that's just bunkum. Small businesses have got a lot more productive things to do. Their eye is on the ball of the small business. They can't be expected, sir, pick up on every little nuance of Parliament. So what we proposed in my SOP was that it apply to supplies before 1 April 2016. That gives people time to absorb the changes. It's a transitional provision and fairness prevails. So whilst, sir, I'd say that we will be opposing the Minister's SOP, we won't be opposing it because it's we're against it in principle. We're opposing it, Mr Chair.
Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
We're opposing it and supporting my SOP because the Minister's left out a really important chunk in terms of those dates. And that has the ability to greatly disadvantage a whole series of parties and businesses who will still be liable in a retrospect. It will still be liable for cost. And so we think it's inelegant. We think that this should have been brought to the Minister, or presumably the Minister knew. It shouldn't have taken a letter from me on the 20th of October, months and months and months after the bill was introduced, for the Minister then to scurry around and go, oops, we've left out there's a major flaw in the bill. I am advised by some learned tax historians that we may have made a little bit of history because I think it's been a very, very long time when an opposition has actually been able to provide a major amendment to a piece of tax legislation that the government's been forced to pick up. But the big question I'd like to ask the Minister, and it worries the living daylights, I think, out of the industry and many practitioners, is why are these mistakes continually being made? If you go back, and I won't labour the point, to the Peter Dunn car park tax, the Peter Dunn computer tax, you know, all these sorts of things which were rubbished right out of the FEC when they came through. These sorts of, and they were dealt to, the government was forced then to back down and say this is just crazy. But I've got to say this is not a political comment. It's not a comment about which political party's in government. But I know when we were in government, the quality of advice, bluntly, that ministers were receiving, I think was world-class, absolutely world-class. People like Robin Oliver and other people who were, apart from David Bennett, who I don't think was employed in the department, but no doubt feels he is a guru in tax matters. But people like Robin Oliver and others who'd been around for years and years and years were part of the IRD furniture. A number of these proposals, sir, would never find their way to a minister's desk, or if they did, sir, if they did, you had ministers whose eyes were on the ball who would say, no, this is crazy, we're not doing it. This particular piece of ineptitude had the ability to impact on thousands of small businesses all around the country. Now, I give the minister his due. When we raise, no, it's a fact though. If the member actually reads it, and I'll tell you why it's a fact, because his own ministers amended it. So if he reads his own minister's SOP 129, ministers aren't in the habit of doing things on a whim. 129 actually remedies a major problem. My point to that member over there is this: it should not have taken an opposition without an IRD department behind it to raise the issue with the minister. To his credit, he amended it because it was going to provide a major hole and a major impact on small businesses. And if the member in the back row had read the bill, or maybe even read the minister's letter with the explanation, he may know why. He purports, sir, to stand up for small businesses. So why didn't that member and Mr Bishop pick up on this? An issue, sir, that would impact huge cost on those small businesses retrospectively. They're in government. They've got all the resources, sir, and they blew it and they missed it. And even the minister himself didn't even pick it up. Well, I'll give him his due. As I've said often before, he is the guy with the shovel behind the elephant post Peter Dunn. Peter Dunn was asleep at the wheel. Mr Macleay's had to come in and clean it up. But it is a worry, sir, that opposition members and others, and through the good grace of experts outside this place, have managed to pull this one out for the government. Managed to write to the minister and say, here's an SOP, this will fix the problem, and to his credit, he's delivered one back in his own name, but still, sir, there's an inequity and a gap because the dates, in my view, are wrong, sir. The 1 April 2016 date, as I understand it, sir, was the one that was promised, was the one that was committed to, and the one that will ensure that there is no inequity or unfairness. And as I say, if this isn't corrected, sir, what it means is that for those small businesses that have incurred costs through unregistered body corporate from 27 February on are still going to be denied refunds and will still be double taxed under GST. Now, I don't know, sir, what the member, whose name I can't recall, in the back row thinks of that.
Thank you.
Does he think that's a problem for small business? Does he think that's okay? He's a guru. Does he worry about these things? Does it keep him awake at night if he purports to support small business? Because we're going to support the bills, sir, but we think there's still an inadequacy in the minister's SOP. He's gone 90% of the way there, but there are still businesses and individuals that are going to be impacted on, sir.
I